All right, let's jump right into this explainer and tackle the core mystery of what it actually means to be American today. It's the kind of question that dominates our headlines, our dinner table conversations, and massive academic debates. But finding one single unified answer, that's incredibly elusive. And that's really because the fabric of this nation is woven from just countless different threads.
So I want you to actively think about this for a second. What truly defines your own complex identity? Is it the language you speak? The political ideals you hold? Maybe it's your family's unique heritage, or, I don't know, simply the geographic borders you happen to live within. When you really try to nail it down, you quickly realize it's definitely not just one simple thing.
To make sense of all this, we're looking at a pretty fascinating academic study by Deborah J. Schildkraut out of Tufts University. She proposes that our identity is built on what's called the multiple traditions theory. Basically, this brilliantly illustrates that being American isn't defined by one rigid set of rules, but rather by a really broad, complex, and honestly, sometimes totally contradictory set of constitutive norms. We are literally defined by our multiplicity.
Here is our agenda. First, defining American identity. 2, the multiple traditions theory. 3, the first Americans. 4, complex indigenous civilizations. 5, early European arrivals. And 6, a shared complex identity.
Section 1. Defining American identity, a modern question.
Trying to pinpoint Americanism right now is really difficult as our demographic landscape rapidly shifts. It's prompting sociologists to ask some profound questions about what actually holds the center together. Schildkraut's study tackles a central hypothesis here. Does an increasingly ethnically diverse, multicultural America inevitably create a multi-creedal America? In other words, as we incorporate more diverse cultural backgrounds, do our core beliefs and values, our creeds, also branch out and become contradictory? It's an absolutely vital question for understanding our social cohesion.
Section 2. The multiple traditions theory, complex norms.
While Schildkraut tested a huge range of norms to see what people actually believe constitutes American identity, and the results are incredibly revealing. The data officially confirms the multiple traditions perspective. The research shows that a very broad range of constitutive norms defines being American today. It proves that identity is indeed a complex and, yes, deeply contradictory set of norms. You simply cannot reduce Americanism into one neat little box or a single measure. The complexity is the feature, not a bug.
Section 3. The first Americans, deep roots. Now, to really get why our modern identity is so delightfully multicreedal and complex, we've got to look back, way back. This complexity isn't some brand new phenomenon of the 21st century. It's baked right into the land itself, evolving over tens of thousands of years. Just think about how ancient and deep these multiple traditions actually run. We're talking about human migration across the Beringia land bridge from Siberia to Alaska as early as 30,000 BCE. By 8,000 BCE, Paleo-Indians were already farming. By 3000 BCE, corn was growing in the southwest. By 600 BCE, massive earthwork mounds were going up, and by the 1400s, you have complex political alliances forming, like the Iroquois Confederacy. The history of this land is just vast.
Section 4. Complex indigenous civilizations, a tapestry of cultures. Pre-colonial North America definitely wasn't a monolith. It was this vibrant tapestry of hundreds of distinct, culturally diverse groups. Let's talk about the number 20,000. That might actually subvert your expectations entirely. 20,000 was the estimated population of Cahokia in the 12th century. Cahokia was this massive Mississippian city near modern-day St. Louis, centered around a towering 100-foot-tall structure called Monk's Mound. To put that into perspective for you, Cahokia had a larger population than London at the exact same time. No way, right? These were highly developed, complex societies with deep trade networks and intricate class systems.
And the diversity across the continent was just staggering. Up in the Pacific Northwest, you had incredibly affluent cultures. Their societies relied heavily on the abundant salmon populations, and they built these permanent villages. They're super famous for their potlatches, which were these elaborate gift-giving feasts that celebrated community wealth and social status.
Now contrast that affluent coastal life with the harsh, arid environment of the Southwest. Down there, the Anasazi people engineered massive stone and adobe structures, basically ancient apartment buildings called pueblos. Some of these were built directly into sheer cliff faces. They built incredible cities, like Pueblo Bonito, which boasted 800 individual rooms. Completely different norms, completely different ways of life, all sharing the same continent. And if we jump all the way out to the Pacific, we see the rise of an entirely distinct civilization. Around 1200 CE, Tahitian explorers settled the Hawaiian Islands. This society developed in total isolation from Europe for almost 600 years, eventually unifying under Kamehameha I to become the powerful Hawaiian kingdom. Again, just another deeply rooted tradition that eventually becomes part of the modern American tapestry.
Section 5. Early European arrivals, the first colonizers. Okay, so this brings us to a huge turning point, the arrival of Europeans. This created a massive demographic and cultural collision that complexified the continent in profound and often very tragic ways. And when we look at early European arrivals, it wasn't just one group. The Norse explored parts of North America as early as 1075. Later on, the Spanish established footholds in Florida, New Mexico, and Texas. The Dutch settled the Mid-Atlantic to create New Netherland, and the French colonized regions up north. Now, this collision obviously brought new crops and livestock to the Americas, but it also brought devastating Eurasian epidemics, like smallpox. This tragically decimated indigenous populations who had no immunity. It was a period of immense disruption that fundamentally, permanently altered the societal makeup of the land.
Section 6. A shared complex identity, full circle.
All right, let's bring this vast historical tapestry full circle back to Deborah J. Schildkraut's modern academic study. We've seen the ancient indigenous roots, the massive pre-colonial cities, the diverse European settlements. So how does all of this translate to today? The crucial point is captured perfectly in this finding from her research. Most Americans, regardless of their ethnic or immigrant background, share this complex view of the norms that constitute American identity. Despite our incredibly diverse, painful, and sometimes deeply contradictory history, modern Americans across different ethnic lines actually largely agree on one thing: that being American means holding multiple, diverse traditions all at once. The complexity is literally what unites us.
So I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. Looking at the thousands of years of civilizations, the colliding cultures, and the multiple traditions we've explored in this explainer, how much of this deep, diverse history shapes your own modern identity today? Take some time to really think about the historical mosaic that birthed the complex norms you hold right now. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.